Hi guys, Sarah here from Highland Haven Australian Shepherds and Highland Haven Dog Training, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of Dog for Thought. Joining me is my co-host, daughter, and dog trainer extraordinaire, Sophie.
Hi, everyone.
How you doing, Soph?
Good.
Glad to be back?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we took a couple of months off, and we came back in video form. So some of you are already watching us on video. Hello. Hello. You can see our new studio. What do you think about it, Soph?
I love it. It definitely didn't feel like a couple months off because we were busy setting up all the cameras and getting everything in place. So I'm excited to actually start filming now.
Yeah, so the cameras are a little strange.
Yeah, a little bit.
Take a little getting used to. We had to actually, take showers today. Put on decent clothes.
Yep.
This is about as formal as we get here in the Brown household. And we're back in video form. So you can continue to listen to us in audio only if you prefer that. I love podcasts in audio only because I usually listen to them while I'm driving or walking the dogs or whatever. But if you'd like to watch us in video form, you can do that on premium Spotify or premium Apple Podcasts or just good old YouTube. That's for free. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
So it'll be probably a little bumpy, don't you think, in the beginning? We'll make some mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to keep all the camera angles straight and all that stuff. And, it's a learning experience for all parties. So, bear with us.
For sure. But I think it's going to be fun. And, we had so much fun season 1. And it was important for us to sort of come back in season 2 and do something a little bit better, a little bit fancier, fancy pants. All right, so why don't you give us an update in Dogland? What's been going on the last couple of months?
Well, Tula is 5 months today.
5 months old today,
Yep.
So she's like a young lady.
She is, and she is a character. Oh, man. But she's just such a nice, sweet dog and very, very enjoyable to train.
Yeah, she's this really easygoing, sweet dog, and she is in love with Journey. Those two are besties, which is always nice when your new puppy finds a soulmate within the pack and everybody gets along. So she's been great.
She has been. Really easy puppy.
And we've done some paddle boarding with them.
Yeah, we did do a lot of paddle boarding with them. Tula took to it pretty well. I mean, she definitely was nervous in the beginning and wanted to be with her mom. But the second time we went, she was much more comfortable.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we took Journey with her the first time.
And Journey is like an expert paddleboarder at this point.
Yeah, Journey really took to it like a duck to water.
Yep. And then we took Vivian, which I thought she would like it a lot more. So I was kind of disappointed she wasn't in love with it.
What did we figure? She's 7?
She's 7. And she didn't like the aspect of having to jump in and then not being able to get out easily.
Right. So she loves to swim.
Yeah.
Out of all of our dogs, she's the most comfortable in the water. So we thought, hey, let's try her on the paddleboard. And what we discovered is she's very comfortable in the water when she can get out on her own. In other words, she'll swim out and swim back to shore.
Yeah.
But on the paddleboard, they have to swim to you and you have to grab their life vest, the handle on their life vest, and help them hoist them back onto the paddleboard. That part she didn't like.
No, not one bit.
Although she did it.
She
like
did do
a
it.
Champ.
And she tolerated it, but she wanted to be on the board. She didn't want to go in the water and swim around, which I thought she would be gone. I thought she would be ahead of us swimming around.
Yeah, just sort of swimming next to the board.
Yeah, but nope.
So
she was
she's a bit older to be starting something new like this. And I don't think she liked it. You might convince me to try again one more time to see if maybe she feels more comfortable the second time.
I mean, maybe when we go to the little island or something.
Or maybe when it's low tide.
Or yeah, she would like it if it was low tide. It was just so high. There was no place for us to stand. Where when it's low tide, it's they can run on the gravel.
Right. Parts of the little river we go on actually is knee high.
Yeah.
When it's low tide, so the dogs can literally jump out and run in the water.
Yeah.
And we went at almost the peak.
Yeah, it was pretty much peak because I could barely stand in the water. I had to be in the water. I was up to my waist, and that was the lowest part in the reeds. So.
Right. So there's really no shore we could sort of go over to and allow them to get out and sort of run to shore and run back. So that's an idea. But this, I think it's a good segue into today's show.
Yeah.
because we're talking today about training versus management. And I think this would be maybe loosely under the umbrella of management. Like maybe we should see her for what she is and set her up for success, meaning Vivi. And we don't want to force our dogs into doing something that they're not comfortable or happy doing if it's not something that's non-negotiable, right? Certainly, if we're out having fun, they should be actually having fun, not just us.
Well, I think the reason I would bring Vivian again, is because when she was on the paddleboard, she was pretty comfortable. Like she wasn't shaking or
she wasn't at
giving any sort of signs of anxiety or panting or have whale eyes, or she was really comfortable just being on the board and not getting wet.
Yes.
So I would bring her again because I don't think it was a bad experience. I just think in low tide, when she has the access to run around in the water, I think she would do better.
Yeah, for sure.
So setting her up for success.
Yes. So like I say, that's the topic for today, training versus management. So maybe we should get started. So today's episode, like I say, is training versus management. And I guess we should probably define the two. So training is easy, right? It's when you teach a dog a behavior. A sit, a down, a stay, a come, a heel, whatever, right? It's an actual teaching a specific behavior. Management would be more controlling the environment for the dog so that they can be successful, taking into account their personality, their strengths and weaknesses,
And their breed.
Tendencies, right? And setting up their environment so that they can be all they can be, right? Be all of their hard wiring, but still be successful. And when I mean successful, have behaviors and a demeanor in your household that you like, right? That is compatible with your lifestyle, right? So whenever a dog comes to us for training, I try to speak to the client about the difference between training and management, and that we will be doing both of that when they're here, and that we'll be setting up a management plan when they go home. So do you want to give some examples of management? How we would work with let's take Cal, right?
Yeah.
He's the mini Aussie that's here for training at the moment. You want to talk about a couple of examples of management for him?
Well, I was going to say he is one of those dogs that we are mainly working on management stuff with him.
And why is that?
Because he's super smart. His strength is understanding commands. So he's really good at sit. He's really good at down. He knows what you want. But when he's in those situations, he's really anxious in those situations. So he really needs to have a good foundation of understanding. We want you to relax. We're not going to give you a command to relax. We want you to relax when we are doing this behavior. Does that correlate with management or?
I guess maybe. I think maybe a better example for management for him would be when he's in the car. That's a good one,
okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So he tends to be pretty car reactive. So if anybody walks near the car, walks by the car, if he hears people talking in like a parking lot, he completely loses his mind, right? Barking and jumping at the window and whatnot. So we started to take him to parking lots and worked on reconditioning that response, right? From one of anxiety and adrenaline to one of dopamine and relaxation. And we do that through pairing food with all of these triggers, right? And we try to get him to feel emotionally more comfortable. That being said, you and I talked about how we're going to have to approach the owners with a management strategy for him in the car.
Yeah, because they can't just take him on a car ride. Like if they're taking him in the car, it's going to be a management. It's going to be like a training session, right? Which is like managing that behavior, not training him to be like sit. And therefore you're not allowed to do this because you're in a sit command. Like he has these feelings. So he has to be able to be managed in the car.
Right. So a management plan would be, we're not going to park in a busy parking lot unless we have high value food with us and we can actually make sure that he is able to stay under threshold, and we can continue to recondition that response again from one of a trigger and excitement to a relaxation or a calm and relaxed dog.
Or even instead of doing that, like if you don't have, like, let's say it's like a city dog. I mean, he's not one, but let's say if it's a city dog and you can't not be in like a super confined area and he's super car reactive, putting him in a crate with limited window access is another form of managing him in the car,
Right.
where he only has one access to like see a little bit of light, but he's not, overwhelmed with, people walking around him all three sides of him. He only has one side where he can decide to turn off.
Right. So when he's in the van with us, in the work van,
Yeah, he can't
he's in
see
a
out
crate,
the window.
and there are windows, but he has limited visual access.
Yeah.
Right. You can still see light and see out some windows, but it's not like sitting in the back seat of an SUV where you have your full window and you can see people and dogs.
And therefore he feels more comfortable in the van. The only time he became reactive is when I think we're like in the Starbucks line and somebody walks really close by the car. That's when we're like, oh, we should definitely work on this.
Right.
So it's a balancing game.
Right. So that we're reconditioning that response. Yes, that would really fall under training.
Yeah.
But then the management plan would be limited visual access if they don't want to work with him when they're in the car, or be prepared to work with him when you take him someplace, or stop taking him places for no reason, right? He's not the kind of dog who is, you want to go for a car ride? You want to go for a ride in the car? Right? That's not probably what this dog is going to have in his future.
Or going to thrive in. It's not an environment he will thrive in.
Right.
Which is okay.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
That's, again, understanding who he is, hardwired, and managing that hardwiring in a way that makes everyone happy, keeps him calm and happy, keeps the owners calm and happy. So that would be an example of a management plan.
I mean, I think part of the reason, besides breeding, but part of the reason we have a lot of dogs is because we understand that there are certain dogs that aren't going to be cool with paddleboarding, and there are certain dogs that are going to be cool with paddleboarding. And we're not going to force Ty to go paddleboarding and to have him just shake on the paddleboard,
He would pop the paddleboard. He'd be on all of his nails.
Yep, he would. But that doesn't say that Ty doesn't love swimming. So there are certain activities that you can do with your dog, and there's certain activities that you don't have to do with your dog, or there's certain activities that you have to manage when you are doing them with your dog. And I think it's really important to know what your dog is and to know what their love language is, and to know, this is an environment that they thrive in, but I can't do the same things I do with this dog.
Right. And I think that, a really basic example of management with our own pack is that they can be as a group out on the deck in the backyard, as long as nobody sees a bunny. The bunnies are themes in our houses. We have so many rabbits in our yard. As long as nobody sees the bunny and completely loses their shit and draws everybody in, right? Yep. And everybody barks. As soon as that happens, everybody comes inside. That is a form of management. Now, some people might look at that. Many people will look at something like that or hear about a story like that and say, well, you should train them better.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not really about training. It's about understanding that they're going to be triggered by small animals. That's a natural response for most dogs. So we're going to manage their access to a situation like that. And when it happens, we're going to manage our way out of it by bringing everybody inside and shutting the door.
And I would counter that. So, the argument is that they're not trained because they're barking at wildlife, right? But yet, when we call them in, they all come in. So are they trained or are they not?
Right. And you will get into circular arguments with people about this. Another example for our pack is the sliding door downstairs. That actually there's a video that's been viewed, I don't know, a couple 100,000 times on our Instagram about that very topic. And it was pretty divisive in some of the comments. So we have a sliding door downstairs, and it goes to our fenced-in backyard. And the sound of the sliding doors, the Aussies
lose it.
Yeah, they're all they need is one repetition or one rehearsal of a behavior that triggers a natural response for them, which is racing down the hill and trying to hurt each other.
And then it's like this chain reaction of
HERD, hurt each other, not hurt each other. Although they sometimes can do that when they get crazy overstimulated like that. So it only takes a couple of rehearsals for them and an experience like that. And now it's an ingrained behavior. And I manage it. We all manage it by throwing a handful of kibble outside as we open the door. And what that does is the dogs, instead of running down the hill like maniacs and barking, they stop immediately and sniff the ground and try to get as much kibble as they can. And by the time they're done eating the kibble, which is what, 10 seconds?
Yep.
12 seconds?
It knocks them out of like,
They're not, yeah, right. They're no longer in that
not
zone
outside.
where they want to run down the hill. So they then calmly and quietly trot down the hill and go poop and pee and then come back inside. So that is a very easy form of management. And I had a lot of back and forth in the comments with people who said, you should just train them. You say you're a trainer, you should just train them. I am sort of training them.
Well, you're reconditioning them.
I'm reconditioning that
So
response.
that is training. It's a form, management is a form of training. Right. And I think that's where I get really like annoyed with what people say, because they're like, oh, well, you should train your dog. Yeah, well, if we wanted to do that, we could put all of our dogs in a sit and let them out one at a time. And you know what would happen is, as we would let one of them out at a time, they would all redirect on each other as that dog would come out. So then I would have to train them to go outside and then sit when they go outside and not do that. And then I would, so it keeps falling, and I have to keep correcting these behaviors when I could just take a handful of kibble and throw it outside, and I could get the same reaction in a much shorter period of time. Like we could do that. And we do. Like, our dogs know not to just run out the front door. We have a very clear threshold. Like, if we're bringing groceries in, they know that they're not allowed outside unless we say it, they're allowed outside. And so we can do that with the downstairs door, but they're still gonna run outside and, you know, redirect on each other as we let them out one at a time, releasing them from a sit, you know?
I like to talk about our Aussies in that it's a constant arms race. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yep.
Right. So you change one part of the rehearsed response, right? And they stop it for a second.
And then they create a
and
different
then they veer left and create another response, right? It's very common for herding breeds in particular to do that, right? Because they're designed, we've bred them to think outside the box, to problem solve in a way that allows them to go out and collect livestock and bring them in, and have to make real-time decisions when they're hundreds of yards away from their handler. We've bred them to do that. So they can be really challenging in that way. Mm-hmm. So yes, management is a form of training. Correct. A lot of people will say that and see that and say, well, if they were obedient, they wouldn't act that way.
Have 9 dogs and try to do what we do. That's how I see it. Is like, you have 2 dogs.
Aussies.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I could have a very two militant Aussies, and I could get them to do probably everything that people would recommend that is training, not management. If I had 2 of them, but having 9 of them and having them be in a safe environment where they're not, you know, running out the door, either being loud for our neighbors or redirecting on one another. I mean, we have to consider management. We could do it, but man, it would consume all of our time.
And I think they'd be miserable. Yeah. And we would be miserable. Yeah. And instead, we try to embrace who they are, individual personalities, but also breed hardwiring.
Yep.
And understand that a small handful of kibble, which costs 5 cents maybe, solves all of those problems around that particular annoying behavior. Solves it all.
Yep.
Everybody's happy. We accept who they are. We recondition that response to one of, ooh, let me look for kibble, not let me race down the hill like a fool and bark and redirect on each other. So to me, it's a win-win. But you will get a lot of pushback when you talk about that kind of thing.
I think training in general is a lot of pushback because there's so many different ways you can go.
For sure.
So it's really what works for you. I you know, as long as your dog's healthy and balanced and understands what they want, I mean, do what you got to do with your dog. That's how I feel about it, you know?
Well, we want to be happy and we want to enjoy having them. And when we talk about us, we're full-time dog trainers. Mm-hmm. So this is what we do as a reflex. When you're talking about people who are just average pet owners who don't have the same sort of obsession with training dogs, it's even less unrealistic. It's less realistic for them to do this
training all the
hardcore
time.
training stuff, this militant sort of training stuff, if we can give them shortcuts that get the behaviors that they want and everyone's happy. I think that that is the best way to deal with a lot of hardwired issues. So let's not confuse this with actual training. We do, of course, fully train our dogs as well. What I tell our clients is I say we're going to work on both training and management. Training is going to be teaching skills like sit, down, stay, come, responding to yes, responding to no, because that gives us a common language. That's really the function of training, right? I want to be able to tell you what I want in any particular situation.
As well as impulse control that goes with all of that.
Yes, good point. Good point. Impulse control is huge.
Honestly, like with me is like dogs need to know how to sit and lay down, but I think what's more important than knowing how to sit and lay down is being able to hold that sit, being able to hold that down, because that really shows you that they know exactly what you're talking about. So I think a lot of the times we have dogs come to us and they know what sitting down is, but they can't hold it. So they really don't know what sitting down is because they don't have that impulse control not to get up and get a cookie right away and then get released. Like if I say sit, you're staying sit until I release you from that sit, which is more training rather than.
For sure. And impulse control is, I would say, is the thing we work on most with the dogs that come in, because most dogs are, pretty intelligent and can learn a command really quick. And like you say, most of the time they come in with a general understanding of the basics with no impulse control. And so we work on a tremendous amount of impulse control. And, we work on that in a variety of ways with holding the sit and holding the down and not pulling on the leash and things like that. But also the off switch, just going to lay down and chew a bone when I say it's time to chill out. So yeah, that's a super important part of training as well.
I think people forget that not only do you have to teach your dog, or you have to give your dog activity and stimulation and, make their brain think and work and give them exercise, but I think people forget that you also have to teach them how to turn off when you're just relaxing on the couch. I think that is also a really big thing we get with training is, he just, we sit down and then all of a sudden he starts barking at us, or she starts, nipping our ankles and pulling toys and throwing stuff on us or whatever. And it's, in reality, it's lack of an off switch. And I think once you teach them an off switch and they're like, okay, when we're on the couch, you can sit by me and chew a bone. That I'll pet you, but we're not doing any more activities. We're done with the activities today. Instead, I feel like a lot of people exercise until they're drained and they just pass out because they're so mentally exhausted, instead of working that muscle of let's turn off instead of let's be on 24/7.
Yeah, and I would actually take that a step further if you're talking about like the dog we did last week with the follow-up lesson. He is a pretty high drive dog, and her solution was to have him be walked 2 full hours a day. And he's just a little guy. He's just a little spaniel mix. And then was going to take him to the dog park as well. And what I think people don't understand is that you can, sometimes when you work a high drive dog, they become even more high drive.
Yeah, well, a great example is Twiggy. Because if I could work her all day. And so because I do so many activities with her, I take her paddle boarding, I take her biking, we do off leash work. Like I do a lot of things with her, and I'm with her 24/7. It's really important for me to get dressed to go biking and then not take her one day and make it as like spontaneous as possible, because I don't want her to feel like she needs to turn on because I'm getting dressed to go biking. So I think it's really important to not make it as rigid. I mean, at least for my lifestyle, because I'm not going to be biking every day. So she can have those off switch times throughout the day.
I would say that with Twiggy, and this is the point that I'm trying to make, you can take her bike riding, 6 miles. She can run the whole time. And she will come back and act like she has not done any exercise. Not that she comes in bouncing off the walls, but that she comes in like you just took her for a 20-minute walk.
Yeah.
You don't see any energy drain from her because of that. And that's kind of my point. With a high drive dog, sometimes the more physical stimulation you give them, the more they need, right?
And then it ups the ante, and then they need more throughout the day rather than, this is all I'm going to give you. You need to turn off.
Yes, and also we already know that that's their strength. We know drive is their strength. What is their weakness? Calmness.
Relaxing. Yep.
Right? So if you have a high drive dog that you want to be more calm, counterintuitively, you need to work on calmness. What people do, and it makes sense when you think about it, when you don't understand the way dog behavior works, is they think, well, let me just exercise the heck out of them and overstimulate. Basically, you're overstimulating them, and then they get worse, and then they're like, well, I guess an hour walk wasn't enough, so let me do 2 hours this time. And the dog's getting worse and worse and worse, and they call us and go, I don't understand. And then when the dog comes to us, we do the opposite. We do a lot of just hanging out and working the calmness muscle, so to speak. Right? So that was what we were talking about with the city dog the other day, right? We already know what his strength is. His strength is he can go all day long, right? He can walk 2 hours, literally walk 2 hours. He's just a little guy, walk 2 hours a day and go to the dog park and still come home and be a nudge with the other dog. When in reality, what we need to do is pull back on the physical exercise and work on calmness and the off switch.
Which is his weakness.
Right? And we talked about a management plan with her, right? And that involves crate time. That involves keeping the leash on him when he's being a particular nudge with the other dog, and getting in her face and not listening to her calming signals and whatnot. We worked on a whole management strategy with that. Not so much training, because he already knows all his training. And could we put him in a place command? Yeah, but what's he learning then? He's not learning how to be around his, roommate.
He's not learning how to self-regulate.
Right.
He doesn't know how to self-regulate well.
Right.
So, and then as soon as we came in and I put all the rules on him, he went and laid down. I was like, he has these skills. It's just the language is not there for you guys.
Right.
So we worked on reassociating the language with him again. And what I did was, he would get overstimulated, take the leash, wait until he calmed down. As soon as he calmed down, then yes, that's what I want. I want you to go lay down. Grab a bone. Yes, good boy. Get excited. No, grab the leash. Made his body physically calm down again. And it's a lot in the beginning, but if you're consistent, then he gets the cues.
Right. So we're using the training language, right? The communication that we've developed through obedience, and we're working on a management strategy with him. So it's a nexus of the two.
Yep.
Right. And then we're working on his weaknesses rather than playing to his strengths. We already know he's got lots of energy. We need to work on him being chill, being a better partner. I mean, he's just a baby. He's only, I think, 6 months old.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just he's
developmental, for sure.
I think he'll grow out of it.
So getting back to management plans, we do a lot of management with our pack of 9. And if you have a multi-dog household, you are naturally going to be doing a lot of management. Much of it you probably don't even realize. I was thinking last night, really, we have 4 dogs who can be out with anybody who comes over consistently, and 5 dogs who really need to be in another room.
Yeah.
And would we love to have all of them out? Yes, we would. A couple of them really find it makes them very anxious. Journey, new people in the house, makes her very anxious.
Very anxious.
Deacon gets very anxious.
Remy
can be nippy in that she wants to control everybody. So if you suddenly stand up, she's going to do
like,
that
why are
herding
you
dog
leaving?
Thing.
Yeah.
Yep, and go and nip your heel or your back of your leg or whatever. Ruby is just an old gal. She could be out if we wanted her to. Mm-hmm. And Twiggy has kind of been a jerk lately.
I think a lot of it, I think once she's spayed, I think she'll kind of mellow out a bit.
She's been pretty brittle lately. And
yeah.
I think it's because she is going into heat.
Yeah.
I would expect her to go into heat sometime in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And sometimes this sort of ramping up to that, they can get really crabby and short-tempered. And she's definitely
Yes.
been crabby and short-tempered. Again, we have to manage that because it's not her fault.
No, and I can't get mad at her for, feeling a certain way. Like, when I'm hormonal, I get mad at everything. So I can't get mad at her. So it's a lot of her going in, like I'll take her on activities and then she's in the room, with Ruby where she can watch everything, because otherwise she gets herself in trouble and then the whole house gets upset. And it's like, she just feels like she needs to be isolated, which if she was in the wild and she was, she would be self-isolating herself if she was in a pack. And
I think she kind of likes to be behind the gate because she's still in the room, but yet she doesn't have to interact, so she can just sort of relax and observe. I think sometimes she really likes that. I know Remy likes that in the mornings.
Remy really likes it, yeah.
She prefers to, after breakfast, to be behind the gate or to be in my bedroom with the door closed. She just is not in the mood to socialize. They're funny that way.
Yep. But everyone has their own little quirkiness.
So we do a lot of managing. We do the door management. We do people coming over management. We choose what activities we take which dog to. We try to match an activity to what the dog really likes.
Based off of age and temperament and drive.
For sure.
So everyone has like their own unique thing that they particularly do.
Yes, for sure. So if you have a multi-dog household, management is
huge.
Key. Yeah.
Huge.
So I know we talk about this a lot. We talk about how we have 9 dogs because we're so we need a dog to do like every activity, because like 1 or 2 dogs. This is, I think, when people get into trouble. Like they have a dog who doesn't like to go to the sidewalk cafe, right? But that's what they imagine. So they drag the dog there and the dog hates it. For us, out of 9 dogs, we can find a dog who wants to go to the sidewalk cafe.
Yes.
Have brunch.
Yes.
Right? If we wanted to do such a thing. Twiggy, we did not take Twiggy paddleboarding with other dogs. You've taken her alone.
Yeah.
Because last year you got super frustrated with her.
Yeah. And I it's like I couldn't get mad at her because what she was feeling was valid. And so anytime we would take just Journey and Twiggy, and Journey was, she was younger because we didn't go last year because it was super rainy season. And so the year before they were much younger. And Journey was essentially learning how to behave on the paddleboard. And so anytime you would be working with Journey or I would be helping you, Twiggy would literally be like, screaming. And then when I would put her in the water, she's not like, she loves swimming, but I wouldn't say she's a strong swimmer. She just doesn't understand how you want to tuck everything in doggy paddle. So she kind of like, her butt kind of floats out like this.
She swims like a frog.
She swims like a frog, yes. And then when she panics, then she starts doing this and splashing the water and then literally drowning herself because she's trying to catch up with us. And then if she just relaxed, where Journey is like the strongest swimmer in the whole pack.
She's a motorboat.
Yes. And so, Twiggy, when she would jump in the water because she wanted to be in the water, and then she would get anxious about being in the water, and then I would pull her out of the water, and then she would want to go back in the water. So it's just like this evil little chain. I think a lot of it was you being there with Journey and her wanting to swim with Journey or wanting to be with you, or, the pack's veering away, we need to all stick together. And then her displaying that in anxiety. So I decided this year, instead of taking her with everyone, to take her separately and then to give her a lot of structure because she thrives in structure, but she has a hard time turning off. So it was a lot of, the first bit, I let her swim in. And then once she was wet and cooled off, then she had to lay down until the second half where I could stand in the water and be with her and she could swim around. And then once we got back on the paddleboard and she finished swimming, then she has to lay down. She's not allowed to go in the water. So I really have to make it super strict with her. And it's a bit of training and a bit of management. It's managing that, I know that if I let her go in the water and kind of do what she wants to do, she's going to be anxious and she's going to have anxious behavior and she's not going to have a good time. On the other hand, I'm also making her going to a command, like a down command, and she has to stay in that command, or I know she's going to get anxious and then do a behavior that she's not happy about.
And it would be much harder if you were with me and another dog, because she would be seeing that other dog go on and off the board, swim around, and she would be super duper keyed up because of that. So I think that taking her alone is a much better solution for her. This way she can still do the activity, because she thrives in activities. That's really her mainstay.
But it's an activity where you have to turn off for a fair bit, and she's not good at turning off. Where like I'm biking with her and she's running for 5 to 6 miles straight, and she's listening to my commands on like where to go behind me. So she's always working. She's much better in working environments where I'm like literally she's running the whole time and I'm telling her where to go on the bike trail. Where in this, she has to really turn off and then turn on and then turn off and then turn on, which is not her strength. So
No,
it's
for sure.
it's a bit of both of management and training.
Yeah, and I think that, if you knew Journey, you would say, really, she's good on the paddleboard, because she's like a chicken in a lot of ways. But she really loves the paddleboard and loves to swim and is really pretty confident out there. So she's funny in that way.
She is. She's quirky.
I thought we took Journey and Tula, and you were going to take Tula on your board. And I was like, I want both of them because they're my dogs. But I was like, all right, take Tula. And the girls decided that they wanted the reverse. So Tula wanted to be with me, and Journey was like, I don't want to be on a board with 2 dogs. That's too much. So she hopped off and then swam over and got on the board with you, which, again, surprised me.
Yeah, because, me and Journey are cool, but you're definitely her mom.
Oh, she's definitely a one-person dog.
100%
She's
your
very
dog.
focused on me. So it was really nice to see her on your board. And then I got to be with my little Tula.
Yeah, when she did much better. Wasn't as whiny with you.
Yeah,
So
they did good. It was fun. We'll go again. I will not be biking with the dogs.
I know. Not even with an e-bike.
I don't even like to actually paddle with the paddleboard. I would prefer to have a motor or have an e-paddleboard. Do they make those? Is there such thing as
Yeah, they have like the electric motor, and you have like a little button.
That would be ideal.
Yeah.
That would be
$500 later.
Although you didn't make me go so far. The 2 times we went, you didn't make me go really far up the river. We only went part way, which I was like, all right, this is cool.
We go halfway with you, which sucks. I see, this is why Twiggy is my dog, because I want to be outside in the woods biking for 6 miles, or I want to go to paddle and I want to go all the way to the end and come back. And then me and Twiggy have like a hammock spot, and then I play fetch with her in the water, and then we go back.
Yeah, no, I'm like Twiggy. I want to paddle a place, turn around and paddle back. I don't want to like hang out on any stupid hammock, getting eaten by bugs. No, thank you.
You get eaten by bugs, not during certain tides.
But anyway, it's been a super hot summer, so we've been in the water a lot with them.
Yep.
That's definitely a benefit of our crazy schedule, because we do have a break in the mid-afternoon and we can do fun stuff during the day. So we're lucky that way. All right, so I think it's time for a new segment. Are you excited?
I'm kind of excited, but I feel like I'm going to fail at this segment a lot.
So we decided to add a segment to each show this season. It's called I Bet I Can Make You Cry. And we're going to read inspiring stories about animals. We'll probably focus on dogs, but I'm not going to say exclusively they're going to be dog stories, because sometimes there are other amazing animal stories that'll make you tear up. That'll make you verklempt, as they used to say.
I mean, and partly why we made this segment is because you introduced me to these really sad stories. And then I'm like in the car and I'm like, that's so sweet. So,
all right. So are you ready for this new segment?
I guess so.
All right, here we go. Hey, so
What?
Bet I Can Make You Cry.
Bet.
All right. So here is the first segment of Bet I Can Make You Cry. It is about Roselle, the guide dog from 9/11. Do you know this story?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people know this story because it's, there's so many amazing stories out of 9/11. Not just, this isn't, of course, the only dog story. There are incredible dog stories about the search and rescue dogs that were down, helping for this during the rescue. It's really the search. There wasn't really any rescue. And of course, there's probably thousands of incredible, inspiring human stories. I love this story of Roselle, though. So I pulled an article that was actually written in 2022. It was sort of a, hey, let's not forget this story. This person put this together. Her name is Erin Kelly. This was published September 10th of 2022. And this is how it goes. Are you ready?
No.
You have tissues?
I know.
All right. On September 11th, 2001, Michael Hinkson was in his 78th floor office of the North Tower of the World Trade Center. He was preparing for the workday when he suddenly heard a muffled boom. The building shuddered and then he felt it moving. We moved about 20 feet, he said. After the tower lurched back into place, which in and of itself is absolutely horrifying when you're talking about being on the 78th floor. After the tower lurched back into place, Hinkson's colleague David Frank saw flames and a large amount of smoke from the office window. Debris rained down in front of the glass, and Frank became increasingly frantic. Now, just to go to the Brown family, I think that there were a lot of people in the towers that were like trying to be like, oh, this is no big deal, because there had been an attack on the World Trade Center in the 90s, right? And I think that the people who worked there were very much like very hardened New Yorkers, right? And nothing was going to scare them. So I think there were a lot of people who were very much like, oh, it's no big deal. I'm going to continue working. What you need to know about the Brown family, listeners, is that the Brown family does not subscribe to that.
No. Nope.
If there's any sort of hint of danger,
We're gone.
The entire Brown family is packing up and going immediately.
You wouldn't see us anymore.
No,
We'd be gone.
we're not going to be brave.
No.
Or tough.
Nope.
We're packing our shit and heading out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I am totally with David Frank in this story. He says we need to get the heck out of this building right now.
I'm not even having a discussion with somebody who's like, oh, I'm not leaving. I'm like, bye.
Right.
Bye.
So he says, we got to get out of here right now. You don't understand. You can't see it, Frank said. And he was right. After all, Hinkson was blind. He had been blind since the day he was born. Meanwhile, Hinkson's companion, a guide dog named Roselle, emerged from a nap she was taking underneath her master's desk. The yellow lab was not showing any kind of fear reaction yet, and that led Hinkson to believe that the office had time to evacuate in a calm manner. I mean, good for him, but I'd be running down those stairs.
He can't run. He's blind.
All right. What happened next proved that the bond between this blind man and his guide dog was so much bigger than just the two of them. Hinkson had a good knowledge of the building's emergency procedures. This was important for him, not as just a local leader of the Quantum Corporation's New York office, but also as a blind person who couldn't rely on signage, right? He had to really know the routes. He had to memorize them in his head. After calling his wife and letting her know that he needed to evacuate the building due to the explosion, Hinkson calmly told Frank that he needed to steer the employees from the office toward the stairs and not the elevators. He's likely saved many people's lives just by that decision.
Yep.
Frank followed as the office workers began walking down the stairs, and as soon as Hinkson and Roselle entered the stairway, Hinkson smelled a familiar smell. He soon remembered it from the airport. It was jet fuel. Okay, so alarming, right? That just gives you chills, right?
Yep. I've been having chills this whole time.
No. The group started their descent of over 1,460 steps from the 78th floor. Burn victims passed them on their way down. One woman began struggling to breathe and insisted they would never get out of the building alive. Hinkson said that he and about 8 others stopped and had a group hug right there on the stairs, encouraging the woman to keep going. Roselle gave her kisses. Michael Hinkson remembered. Roselle was really good at that. All right, we're doing good so far? I'm just a little bit teary. How are you doing? You
okay. And so the next page is going to get me because...
Well, if I could turn the page, we'd be good. All right. They continued downward. Firemen passed the group on their way up to fight the flames above them, and many of them gave easygoing Roselle a quick pet as they passed her. Tragically, it would be one of their last moments of joy.
Why do you have to add that in?
I know, right? But you think about it, that's the last dog they ever pet.
Yep.
Right. These incredibly brave people knew they were going to die. It's just...
Keep going.
You were just a baby while this was going on, but it still to this day is just as incredible as it was when it happened in real time. Panic amid Hingson's group set in again as they closed to the 50th floor. Frank stopped, telling everyone that they were all going to die. Hinkson snapped back, "Stop it, David. If Roselle and I can get down these stairs, so can you."
Facts.
So basically slapped him across the face and said, "Get a hold of yourself."
Yeah, period.
After that, the pair helped keep everyone else calm as they completely trusted each other at that point. Hingston encouraging words to Roselle as they descended each flight of stairs resonated with everyone. Finally, the group reached the main lobby. However, officials instructed crowds not to leave because of dangerous debris, including dead bodies, was still raining down on the street. So Hinkson and the others headed out to the central complex and found another exit to walk out. I mean, the fact that this dog was just like, it's just another day at the office. Well, there's this absolute chaos going around. And then the trust that this man had in this dog. I mean, it's just incredible.
I mean, the guiding eye dog, it's just amazing. How they train them, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It is.
I mean, this is why I love working dogs. Like, true working dogs is just amazing watching them do their skill.
Yeah, we've done a good job as people to create these animals.
I know. I'm telling you, dogs are the best invention we've ever created.
Absolutely. 100% agree. All right. Finally, the group reached the main lobby. However, officials sorry. Sorry, I'd already read that. It wasn't until they were outside that the group realized the extent of the damage caused to the World Trade Center during the 9/11 attacks. Frank saw fire in the South Tower. Remember, they were in the north, as well as in the north where they had just come from. He stopped to take a picture at Vesey Street and Broadway, just a block north of the World Trade Center. Then Hinkson heard it, a rumble he described as resembling both a freight train and a waterfall at the time. The South Tower was collapsing. So they were in the North Tower, right? They got out, but the South Tower collapsed first. Did you know that? The North Tower was hit first.
I don't remember what tower happened. I just remember it was like ba-bam, ba-bam. That's like the whole video you see.
The South Tower was hit second, but collapsed first.
Yeah.
Okay. They were in the North Tower. Hingston heard it. The rumble, the South Tower was collapsing. Everyone turned their heads and ran. Hinkson had to rely on Roselle to lead him through the pandemonium. Can you imagine? I cannot even imagine this. I mean, for him, it's like it was probably better that he didn't see what was going on.
It was like second nature to both of them.
I mean, he'd been blind his whole life, so he couldn't really imagine, I suppose, in some ways. And of course, not seeing the absolute devastation around you probably was easier for him. But I just think of the dog.
Yeah.
She just amazing. Mm-hmm. The dirt and debris was so thick, I could feel it going down my throat and into my lungs, Hinkson said. All of a sudden, Roselle stopped. Guide dogs are trained to do this when they are presented with an unsafe condition. Michael Hinkson reached out. He felt a rail and realized that Roselle had led them to the top of a flight of stairs. It was a subway station, and upon entering it, Hinkson was able to catch his breath with cleaner air down below.
Like, what a genius. Like, how did that...
What a genius. She's amazing. All right.
Pull it together.
The North Tower toppled just 10 minutes after Hinkson and Roselle emerged from the subway station, leaving massive clouds of dust and debris behind. My God, Mike, there's no World Trade Center anymore, Frank said to Hinkson. All I see are pillars of smoke hundreds of feet tall. Immediately upon returning to his New Jersey home that fateful day, Hinkson removed Roselle's harness. Instead of collapsing on the floor in a puddle of anxiety, she grabbed her favorite toy and wanted to play. Roselle took her job very seriously, but now the workday was over. I told you I could make you cry. Following the tragic events of 9/11, the uplifting story of how Hinkson and Roselle escaped the World Trade Center began to spread, and they made the talk show circuit and appeared on radio shows. However, the events of that day continue to get condensed into smaller and smaller historical footnotes every year. Therefore, some people today may not have heard about Michael Hinkson and his beloved guide dog, Roselle. In 2002, Roselle received an award from the American Kennel Club in honor of canine excellence among service dogs. 2 years later, a veterinarian diagnosed Roselle with an immune-mediated thrombocytopenia, a disease that affects the blood platelets. Hinkson believes the toxic air conditions she faced helped him escape on 9/11 caused her condition. But Roselle lived 7 more years, so that's good, in the care of her loving family. Sadly, on June 26, 2011, Roselle passed away peacefully.
She deserved to pass away peacefully.
And Michael Hinkson was right there by her side, as she was always there for him. Although Michael Hinkson had owned many guide dogs throughout his life, he will always have a special bond with the late Roselle. It was Hinkson's job to know where to go and how to get there, but it was Roselle's job to get him there safely. On 9/11, he never let go of her harness, and she never wavered. All right.
I don't like this song.
All right. I think we need to add a box of tissues to the studio. Lord, I don't know. I just love that story. I just love that story. It's just so many emotions, and I mean, she's just doing her job. Mm-hmm. What a brave dog.
Mm-hmm. She didn't even have to be brave. She's like, just another day at work. Fuck.
Anyway, that is it for our first
bet.
Our first segment. I bet I can make you cry.
You said dog in 9/11, and I was like, ah.
Is Jacob crying?
No, I didn't.
Anyway, you should pick the story next week. I'll read it if you pick the story.
I have a story already, but it doesn't involve a dog, so.
Okay, it has to involve an animal, though.
It has an animal.
Okay. All right, good.
You know the story already.
I do?
Yeah.
All right. Well, don't tell me. I want to be surprised, so you get my real reaction.
You know the story. I think you told me the story, but
Oh.
I love this story. So.
I'm exhausted now.
Yeah. How many minutes is it? 50. I think it's good enough. Lord.
All right. I think we should probably wrap this up. Our first video episode of Dog for Thought, season 2. Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy it?
I did. We need tissues, though. Lord. Making me cry on camera.
Everybody I mentioned this segment to was like, why do you want to like ugly cry on camera? And I'm like, I don't know, because I think it would be kind of funny.
Not that, oh, it would be wholesome. It would be kind of funny.
And I bet you much of our audience cried too. Like, that's kind of the whole point.
Yeah, but they're not filming themselves.
Oh, well. I enjoyed it. Let's see how we put this together. We haven't done a whole episode. You know, we haven't seen like a whole episode stitched together on video. And I'm sure we'll get better at it.
Yeah.
Smoother at it. And Jacob will get quicker at putting it together. I would imagine it's going to be a lot more work for you, no? And well, we do have some guests coming up this season.
Yeah,
we
I'm
have
excited.
We have planned 12 episodes. Mm-hmm. Of those episodes, I think we have scheduled 5 guests for all different kind of dog topics. So that should be super fun. We're always open to guest suggestions and topic suggestions. So definitely send them our way, as we always ask you to do when you have a good idea for us. So next week we'll have another plain topic. And then I think the week after might be our first guest. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I have to look at the calendar.
I think it is.
Yeah. So that'll be super fun. And another little challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be doing all of this while hopefully moving.
Yeah,
Right?
we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Packing up this house and hopefully moving to a new house. We hope.
Yeah.
And, probably have a litter of puppies all at the same time.
Yeah, because you don't know how to
It'll
be
terrible
chill.
timing. So that's exactly when Twiggy will go into heat and
Yep.
be ready to breed, because that's always the way it works. So we got a lot on our plates coming up, but we're going to try to keep on a weekly schedule for the podcast, and we have Really loved all the feedback from you guys, as usual. So, yeah, I guess we should wind it up.
Yep.
All right. So we will see you guys next time on Dog for Thought. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.
Dog for Thought is written and hosted by me, Sarah Brown, co-hosted by Sophie Brown, produced, edited, and original music by Jacob Brown. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.